Greetings, I'm Rick Mann, and welcome to this segment on the Good to Great rubric. About 20 years ago, when the book Good to Great by Jim Collins was popular, an organization asked me if I could help them move from good to great. I said I would need a month to assess the situation. After a month, I said, let's go from poor to adequate first. We can then worry about good to great later. Thus was born the beloved Good to Great rubric. It has been invaluable in its many applications ever since. In this short segment, we will provide a brief overview. Before we launch into the Good to Great rubric details, I was once asked by some organizational leaders what one problem I ran into most with consulting. I answered by saying an inability or unwillingness to consistently differentiate between good and poor work. If you and your team use this rubric consistently, there's a good chance that your performance and that of your team will improve. In brief, the Good to Great rubric has 5 points: great, good, adequate, poor, train wreck, or non-existent. One of the reasons that this rubric is so helpful is because it is very intuitive. Most people intuitively know the difference between these descriptors. For example, when someone asks, "How was that book?" most people know that good is different than great and poor is below adequate. The one that often catches people's attention is train wreck or non-existent. That can be used in 2 different ways. First, most of us realize that train wreck is worse than poor. But sometimes something is not very poor, it is just missing. For example, I can ask about your outcomes and you can say they are not poor, they are missing, they are non-existent. This rubric fits closely with the common 1 to 5 Likert scale. Therefore, I often suggest that we use the following numbers: 5 equals great, 4 equals good, 3 equals adequate, 2 equals poor, 1 equals train wreck or non-existent. This numerical scheme works well when aggregating data. I can ask 10 people about 3 different hotels and then aggregate and average the data. Hotel A is 4.3, Hotel B is 3.5, Hotel C is 2.8. You can also say that last year our communication was assessed at 3.5, but this year it is up to a 4.1. Another strong variation that we often use in surveys is to change the labels to 5, strongly agree, 4, agree, 3, neutral, 2, disagree, 1 equals strongly disagree. When you use this in a simple survey with SurveyMonkey, the program can automatically assign the numbers to the search phrases. Here are a few examples of survey questions. Our team manages our budget well. 5, strongly agree. 4 equals agree. 3 equals neutral. 2 equals disagree. 1 equals strongly disagree. The vice president actively supports diversity. Strongly agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. Some groups like using different labels, such as 5 equals exceeds expectations, 4 equals meets expectations, 3 equals below expectations, 2 equals problems, and 1 equals significant problems. Lastly, most groups in most situations tend to gravitate toward good or 4. This works well. Most people know that great is above good and adequate is below good. Good tends to be that which is expected. As mentioned, there are endless ways you can use and adapt this simple rubric. We have more examples and resources with this with our Next Level subscription. Let me just mention in closing that some people will say, wow, this is quite simple, so what's the point? Well, the point is that it's not complex. In fact, it is quite simple. The effectiveness or help is in the usage of it. If organizations struggle with differentiating between good and poor work, this is an opportunity to give you some language, some common language in which you can differentiate the quality of work and therefore be on your road to greater effectiveness and improvement.